Fire for your mind. Kosher Clinician.
Instagram, I noticed that many men look for relationships with women overseas where masculinity is still valued, as I'm sure also a green card might be, but anyway, rather than date people in the United States. Have you seen this?
They have a name for it. I forget what it is, but it's like passport bros they call them. So these passport bros do, they want to find, go overseas and find a woman because they say they're more feminine. That doesn't always work out so well. Some of the men, they go over, they get the women come back here and they can still have the same issues. But I do think it goes to the issue of respect. I think American men do not feel respected. That is the one thing in my book that I found out and that I'm talking to men about now. The biggest thing they talk about is respect.
Fire for your mind. Kosher Clinician.
Powerful warrior. We're going to have a very powerful show, guys, on today about what's his side, the truth about men, dating, and marriage in modern society. Smith, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
It is a pleasure to have you. I'm honored. I'm extremely honored to have you on the show because Dr. Smith, you and I both are professionals. There are many people that look at male issues and male advocacy from a very opinionated view, but you and I are professionals. And so one of the things in being a professional therapist and you being a professional psychologist, we look at things through the lens of empirical data. We look at the evidence. The evidence says that masculinity is under attack. Relationships are going down. Men don't care anymore. And entitlement is consistently rising. What do you say about that statement? Because the banners say schema afflictions and delusions of grandeur. And this is the case of modern women in modern times. So how about you respond to that?
I think you're exactly right. I think men have gotten to the point where women are more and more difficult, and we've seen that with all the dating apps. And that's one of the things I found out in my newest book. And I knew it before, but the dating apps over the last 10 years since I wrote the book, Men on Strike, have just gotten worse and worse. And I think when you look at that, you look at some of the work by, a lot of people are really fond of Myron Gaines, but he wrote a book, Women Deserve Less. And in that book, he looks at the dating apps and some of the data that he has in there is so interesting. He talks a lot about how women don't really like men that much anymore. And I think the dating apps have made it so that a lot of women they both feel entitled. They feel like, oh, I should be getting this amazing man, 6 feet tall, making six figures, the six pack. We all know that.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
But it doesn't help when you're somebody 5'10" who's a really good guy. And I think that the people who are really losing out right now are average men who are out there, who are good people, who are missing out in the world. And they could go across all races. I mean, there are, if you're a short man or you have anything outside the norm, a lot of women now just do not want you. And I think that has led a lot of men to both opt out of dating or just to sort of get disgusted.
So this has been a fundamental issue, guys. It's been a fundamental issue on a myriad of different levels and myriad of different reasons, because perhaps never before in human history have average guys struggled with getting with average women. And there are many barriers, there are many thought processes that cause this. But many times people give their own assessment from an anecdotal perspective. But I strive to look at things through the lens of clinical apprenticeship and try to look at things clinically and also socially and give a correlation to what's actually going on. So I think Dr. Smith did a good job in trying to give her talking points to what was going on with this and why so many men have or are becoming so indifferent because average men are no longer good enough.
And go their own way.
Yeah. There's a term that I created, Dr. Smith, called schema afflictions. And a schema affliction is a maladaptive core belief that's not predicated in reality. And so those schema afflictions sometimes can also look like, some of our psychologists said on YouTube, it's called paranoid persecution, meaning off cusp, Men are already always bad people. Men want to abuse women. Men want to attack women, and men are controlling, and men are violent. And see, the problem with that premise is that there's a broad overgeneralization of the male population. It's a product that's more or less, in my mind, it's been promulgated in what's called transgenerational trauma. And then when you ask them where's the evidence that men are doing this, they can provide no evidence. And so it's problematic because it makes men feel like the bullseye is always on them. So they are constantly trying to adjust to make women happy instead of having boundaries and standards that are symmetrical with the things they deem to be important. What would you? So this was very important as I was talking with Dr. Helen Smith, because I think there has been a generation of men that are paying for the sins of men in the past. And many times those women that have distress or issues with the average or typical guy, they don't have any clear, concise, hardcore evidence about the things that they're talking about and how those things have impacted them in a negative way. So what I was trying to convey to Dr. Smith is that her being a psychologist, me being a licensed therapist, is that many people have a broad overgeneralization of men issues, and many times it's not based in reality. It's based on the trauma narrative, and that's dangerous because it can impact innocent men in a negative way. What do you say about that?
Well, I would say, why is it so? Our whole society is about making women happy, and that's
right.
The point of some of my work is that we've got this female-centered society, and
right.
that goes back to why are men going along? I think fewer and fewer men are.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
And I found that in my book on Men on Strike. Initially, young men did not understand the situation. I'd talk to them and I'd be like telling them about things that are happening, and they would not understand what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I talk to them, they totally get what's happening. They say it's an epidemic. They understand what's happening, and it's very clear to them. So I think men have really caught on to this. And going to your point about the schema, people looking at things in a biased way against all men. All men are bad.
Right.
All men
are bad.
And when you're looking at this in terms of stereotypes, look what happens. You go to college, you're a young guy, and you're told that you're no good. You're told you're a rapist. You're told that you are the cause of all the problems. I mean, people also wonder why men commit suicide at such a high rate. For example, we had 49 suicides in 2023, and 80% of those were men. And people talk about, well, men they kill themselves because they have a gun or whatever. But a lot of men, people don't realize all of the negativity and all of the schema that you're talking about, like with the idea that you're a bad person. I think people just sort of get depressed, and then the men, maybe some of them turn on themselves. But we see other men, which I'm happy about, going out there and saying, I'm going my own way. I'm doing my own thing.
Yes.
And a lot of the men I talk to in my new book, they're happy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Or they found a good woman either by
going
overseas or going and doing their own thing.
Yes. And here's the problem, guys, about schema, afflictions, and paranoid persecution. A schema is a pattern of thoughts or thinking that's not based in reality. And paranoid persecution often harkens unto the trauma narrative or the victimization narrative. And it's a problem on many levels, because what it does, it projects a lot of pain and brokenness to men that have never impacted them, or more or less, it's taking pieces of men that have hurt them and translating that guilt and translating that pain to a bunch of other men that many times were invisible to those women in the first place. And it's dangerous because it's very pathological, and it does not add nuance to the conversation. It does not add clarity to the conversation. And many times it's often in the lens of over-victimization. Yeah, and they are finding that happiness, and many don't like it because modern women think that men's happiness must be approved by them. And so it goes back to a lot of women assuming that average white men, black men, more or less conspired together with rich white oligarchs and created policies to oppress women. And let's say if that was the case, which I don't think it was the case, but let's say if that was the case. We're talking about situations, Dr. Smith, that happened years ago. But you got men that weren't even born during those times. They're actually paying for something that they had nothing to do with. How would you respond to that?
I would say that you are looking at, when you do this to people, imagine what can be done back to you. Like, people don't understand that what you put out there. And when you say that I'm just going to get revenge and go after all these people, any man that you don't like, I think that it comes back to bite you. And all these women now are so unhappy. You know, you look at all the polls, and women are miserable and they're going off about men and everything. But the truth is they've created this mess.
They created, yes, ma'am.
A lot of the men that I talk to are very straightforward, and they say, you know what? A lot of the men, the women have created this mess, and now they're angry. And most men have just opted out. I used to call it on strike, but a lot of the men corrected me and said, no, we're not on strike. We're gone.
We're gone.
We're done.
Right. They're done. Yeah.
Because a strike would imply I'm coming back.
I'm coming back. Yes, ma'am.
No.
Yes, ma'am. I totally agree.
Yeah. And I think that I think it's a really difficult situation because there are so many people aren't getting married as often anymore. And we don't have the family structures anymore. A lot of men and women and girls and boys are being raised by, you know, single families. And I think it is very difficult. We've seen that, you know, as therapists, we know that people without dads, people with, you know, those particularly boys and girls without fathers they're not going to do as well in life. And people.
And so the crazy thing about what Dr. Smith is saying is that she wrote a book called Men on Strike years ago. And this more or less gives credence to what I've said and what many men are saying. And it's not a nihilistic approach, it's just reality. Men are no longer on strike, those that are single and those that have been divorced. They're just totally checked out. They're not on strike anymore. They're totally checked out. And when you have movies like Inside the Manosphere that does not give a fair and balanced perspective of what the manosphere is, and many times often see the manosphere as a byproduct of Myron Gaines, who is not part of the manosphere, or Andrew Tate that said he's not part of the manosphere. And it loosely associate any man that have issues with some kind of toxic manosphere as not only disingenuous, but it's not based in reality. The manosphere is a loosely organized group of men from different backgrounds, different faiths, and different religions and different worldviews. And many men in the manosphere don't believe in all things. But we do have a commonality, and that commonality is that relationships are no longer viable for traditional competent men, and that the average modern woman does not, or more or less, is not worthy of being a wife. We're not saying all, but the average modern woman is not worthy of being a wife. And so a lot of men are saying, I'm not going to waste my time with these scenarios or situations. I'm just going to stay single.
Don't want to believe that, but it's true.
It is true. So my background is very extensive. I worked in law enforcement. I was a correctional officer. I worked with adjudicated youth. I was a social worker, but also I was a special education teacher. And there is a concept called learned helplessness, where men have learned to be helpless because they feel powerless. But I keep telling people, Dr. Smith, that men have more power than they realize. And she really has no power but the power that he gives her. And so what's happening now, a lot of folks get mad at men. They say, oh, the manosphere hate women. No, the manosphere don't hate women. Dr. William Glasser, Dr. Smith said that needs drive behaviors. And the intervention model that we use in the training schools was reality therapy that was predicated in choice theory. And so choice theory has its limitations, but the premise of choice theory is that the past doesn't matter, focus on the now. And what happened, something began to happen, Dr. Smith. And what happened was that men were saying that Dr. Glasser said that men look for 5 elemental principles: power, fun, freedom, belonging, and survival. Men used to have power in their homes. I talk to so many couples now and men that have sexual relationships. Relationships was fun. There was a level of freedom to express your masculinity at one point, Dr. Smith. Men felt like they belonged to a tribe years ago. And men felt like they could survive. But when you truncate a generation of men and you accuse them of things they had nothing to do with, and they're paying for the sins of your grandmother, your great-grandmother, and it's never enough, you're right, men are saying, oh no, we're not even coming back. We're gone. And so what's happened now is the rise of the passport bros, because Dr. Glasser said that the needs drive behaviors. And on top of that, Dr. Smith, I would argue, this is going to be very controversial, and you're going to laugh at me, and it's going to make sense. I would argue that the average man has never had an orgasm. You might say, well, what do you mean by that? That's stupid. Well, I'm going to explain it. The average man has never been stimulated by a feminine woman that was kind. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a physical orgasm. I'm talking about a mental orgasm where he's been around raw femininity that makes him feel good. And so what's happening now is that men are beginning to go abroad and go overseas to get that raw femininity. And what's happening, Dr. Smith, when these men come back, they're actually having a catharsis because they've never gotten that raw femininity.
I mean, I do agree with that because a lot of the men I talked to for my book talked about how much they do love femininity. And if they say that, they're called a misogynist, they're called
yes, ma'am. Right.
And people get so angry. If a woman says she wants all of these things from a man, that's okay. But if a man even says, I just want a woman who's a little bit feminine, he's accused of being some kind of misogynist. And that is too bad. But I think there are still some really good, there are some feminine women out there who do like men. Now they're fewer, but I think they are there. But I can totally understand the passport bros, like going over and, having a good time, finding women that maybe do appreciate them. And in fact, this is interesting, but one of the people that I interviewed told me, he's a doctor, but he said that he works with a lot of female professors, and those female professors said that they don't want their sons marrying an American woman.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Think about a time, guys, where in general, and I say in general, that the women have gotten so bad that even professors are saying they don't want their sons to marry a feminine woman. And what you're seeing, guys, is something called occultic feminism. What it does, it suppresses the autonomy of a man. It suppresses his masculinity. It suppresses his core thoughts. It suppresses everything. And occultic feminism is the premise that the woman is superior. She's a goddess. And man should be annihilated or destroyed or under her foot. And we wonder why so many men are becoming indifferent and checking out, because a lot of men are saying there's just not enough feminine women or feminine grace that will allow me to put myself in a position to get the kind of woman that I want. And because of that, it's a problem. Right.
The American women they're over here looking for money, they're not looking for, there's no humanity there, and I think that's kind of your issue that you're going to about saying that men aren't being fulfilled. I think to be fulfilled, the man has to feel comfortable in the relationship, comfortable.
Yes, ma'am.
Peace.
Right.
And I think men, and that's what they told me, they don't feel comfortable and at peace in their home or in a relationship like they would like to feel. Right.
And that goes back to the paranoid persecution and schema afflictions are not predicated around. Dr. Smith, somebody said that your mic is uneven. Somebody asked, is that her? That's not AI. No, it's Dr. Smith. She's real. They think that you're AI. And I said, no, they can't believe it. They can't. Tell the people. I want you to tell the audience that you're not AI. Tell them you're the real Dr. Smith. So because my friend.
I'm not AI. I wish I was. I mean, that'd be really cool, wouldn't it?
That's Dr. Helen Smith, the author of Men on Strike, and also the book entitled His Side, I believe. That's the name of the book, right? It's called His Side, Dr. Smith?
Yes, I'm sorry. It's called His Side. And then it's His Side, Men Speak Out on Dating, Marriage, and Life in America.
And guys, Dr. Smith is a clarion call. I call her Queen Esther, man. She's doing some heroic work. The feminists don't like her. The devil don't like her, and I got no beloved respect for her because she's one of the rare free women outside of a good friend of mine, Anita Stoutmeyer. She's a therapist too. And they're doing the work. They're trying to bring balance back to the force. But I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime, Dr. Smith. I think it's gone. I don't see it getting any better on this side of life. It's too dark. They are too selfish. They are too unwilling to change. And they are highly narcissistic. I'm not saying the diagnosis, but they have a lot of strong narcissistic traits. And anytime men, white or black, speak out, it's a narcissistic injury. The narcissists don't like anything outside of their approval. So when you hear men say, I'm going to become passport bros and travel, you get the false accusations. Oh, they're pedos, they're ex-tourists, all these false accusations because they don't want black men and white men and men in general to have sovereignty and also the ability to live their lives out on their own terms. Because one of the things we do as therapists is something called the right to self-determination. And America does not want men to have the right to self-determination. They want men.
Determination is the pursuit of happiness, and I think that what behind all this is a lot of women want control over men, and they don't want them to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
What you're talking about is they're seeing men getting on, flying over and having some fun, and that pisses a lot of women off. They don't want people having a good time.
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
think even wives, I think men tell me a lot of the wives are controlling, and if the guy's going out trying to have a good time, I'm not saying like as a passport bro, but even in a relationship, or if the man is having fun, somehow I think women feel like that's not okay. Like, why is he having a good time? And our whole society is like a nanny state. It's full of
Right.
these like HR departments, places where like it's just like if a man's having a good time and a man's happy, somehow that seems wrong to women.
Right. Right. That's a narcissistic trait. You're correct, because they don't want power. And yeah. So it's not so much about men having power. As I said earlier, it's about men being under their feet. And we're not saying these women are narcissists, but they do have the traits many times. And many times those traits say that a man cannot have any happiness outside of their approval. This is one of the first parts of Dr. Helen Smith and a show that we did about 3 months ago. And I will be giving you guys some more conversation between Dr. Smith and I, where we had this powerful conversation about modern women dating and relationships. And her latest book, His Side. Go check out Dr. Helen Smith. Her latest book, His Side, ordered through Amazon. And we will be more or less coming back for the next 3 episodes. I'll see you guys soon.